Thank you all for joining us here tonight at Sound Collective. Some of you have been here before. Thank you for coming back. And for those who haven't been here, make sure you check out the space. We've got a lot of different gear to check out, DJ, production. We've got different programs for learning all of these things and musicianship. So if you're interested, please go see Karen at the front desk. She can provide you with some more information. But tonight, we are here gathered to talk about content creation with one of the masters that we know, Erica Ted. Make some noise. We're super pumped to have her. She's been crushing it on her live streams, getting up to 20,000 viewers on her TikTok during her live stream, also raking in about 25,000 collective followers across the social media platform. So we'll let her take it away from here. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you at the end.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Alex. First off, thank you so much to Sound Collective for having me. The studio is absolutely amazing, so thank you for hosting me. So I just want to start off by asking a general question, kind of getting a vibe. Just generally speaking, how many of you guys feel like you are set with social media, you're confident in what you do, you're the social media gurus of your generation, and you're here to mostly contribute to the conversation today? And no shame if you're here at all. Okay. How many people feel like they're kind of in the middle? They've got a lot to learn, but they've also got a lot to share. They feel confident, but there's still kind of more knowledge sharing to be had. I'm kind of in this category as well. And then how many of you guys are starting off, you're at the foundation of building your brand, you're kind of not really sure what you want to do in the social media space or how to start? All right. That's actually very interesting. I thought everybody was kind of going to be in the middle, but I'm happy that we have some people that just kind of aren't exactly sure where to start. That's why we're here. I also want to, make sure that everybody feels like this is a safe space. I want us to knowledge share. I want us to contribute. So at any point, I know this is more of like a presentation format, but at any point, if anybody has any questions, comments, wants to share something, even from personal experience, all ears. Definitely want this to be a safe space for everybody. So I wanted to start off just by sharing a little bit about me and my journey. I'll make this pretty quick. I've always been a music lover, as I'm sure a lot of you have. I've always, since a kid, I've had music on in the house with my parents. I've always had that love for the music world. And then I ended up kind of getting into the house music scene a little bit later on. One of my best friends to this day, she was studying abroad in the Netherlands at the time, and she was like, let's go on a trip to Ibiza. Let's kind of experience the house music scene. And that was around 2016, and I was immersed, never went back. And then from there, I actually did a little bit of event promotion because I wanted to really figure out how to get involved in the scene, but I didn't really know how I wanted to get involved. So did a little bit of event promo for the next few years, and then I just realized I was always around decks, always around a board, and I was like, you know what, I want to give it a shot. Bought my first board in 2019, first paid gig in 2021. That was the infamous summer that, we were kind of all done with COVID. I feel like that was a memorable summer for a lot of us. So was just kind of in the place at the right time with that. And then co-founded my collective, Taking You Higher, in 2022 with my co-founder, Dan, that's in the audience. And that is really focused on melodic house, progressive house, and techno, and bringing that to the New York music scene. First TikTok live in December of 2022. My story here is one of my good friends in the industry who does a lot of marketing for different companies. He actually had an account, a project fell through, had a little over 1,000 followers, which is what you need to go live on TikTok. And he was like, hey, Erica, do you want to take this opportunity to kind of like go live with your sets? And I said, yes, why not? Good opportunity. And I ended up absolutely falling in love with TikTok Live. And that is really where my journey with social media took off completely. So I've only been doing TikTok Live for the last year. And then I also started my producing journey at the very beginning of last year. Not what we're going to be talking about today, but happy to talk about that at another time and how that's going. So I am going to share today some tips and tricks, some of kind of the best knowledge that I've acquired throughout my time as an artist, my time in the music scene, and kind of my tried and true skills, tips, all of it. So number one is to set your goals. I'm sure a lot of you guys hear this a lot, and I think it goes past actually just hearing it. So 2023 is where I actually started writing down my goals physically, like taking out a pad and paper, writing it down. I want everybody, this is my call to action to you guys. If you're going somewhere after this, if you're not, if you're going home, go take out a piece of paper, actually write down physically your goals. And I feel like I have really seen the progression of, okay, like what goals am I hitting? What goals am I not hitting by actually physically writing down my goals? And then when you're kind of brainstorming, it's important to, and I love this bullet, I got it from a podcast earlier this year, think about what you want to be known for and why. What do you want your brand to represent? How do you want your audience to actually feel when you're performing? So a lot of this is, these are the questions that you should be asking yourself and really the foundation of how you're going to build your brand. It could even be as detailed as the aesthetics of, different your different social media platforms, if there's a specific color or there's a specific theme that you want to incorporate. So yeah, just some ideas there. But yeah, really, really important. Actually write down your goals. It's the perfect time. We're in the new year, 2024. So that would be my first piece of advice. Number two, learn from others. Find your inspirations, big or small. Some of my inspirations are sitting in this room right now. So really, it doesn't stop anywhere. You can have, your inspirations be the John Summits and the Tiestos of the world, or you can have them literally be your friends. I have up here some of my inspirations for different reasons. We have Monkey, LP, and Jay Wara. Monkey I love because she somehow, I don't know how, but she is a professional DJ, and then she also is a professional full-time athlete as well, and really understands how to time manage and juggle, one thing and another thing. LP is an incredible producer, and she kind of has that live element to her sets, which is really honestly aspirational and something that I really resonate with. Jay Wara, love her energy. I actually met her last year, and she was one of the nicest, kindest humans, and it's just something that, I think, again, very, very inspiring. Another piece of advice, and this is another thing that I heard on one of my favorite podcasts, On Purpose by Jay Shetty. That podcast has absolutely changed my life, if anybody needs that. But follow 10 new accounts that represent where you want to go. I actually did this in the very beginning of this year, and it has completely changed my feed. It's completely changed my algorithm when I'm looking at, different social media accounts, TikTok, Instagram. They could be, they don't even have to be music related. They could be fitness related, mental health, nutrition related, whatever you want to accomplish in this year. Find those people, follow those new accounts, and your algorithm will just be filled with things that inspire you and motivate you. Things that potentially could support you in building your brand and your content. Number 3, getting more granular here, building your EPK. For those of you that don't know, this is your electronic press kit, and this form of a press kit is becoming probably just the tried and true version that everybody should have. It represents you as an artist. It should represent your brand and how you want to convey your brand to anyone that is remotely interested in you as an artist. And you should, yes, really help this to use this to help convey your brand. And we're actually, vulnerable moment for me, but we're gonna take a look at my EPK. So this is mine. It may look a little bit advanced. I use Canva, and they have tons of templates that you could use and take advantage of to make yours designed and styled in a way that represents you as an artist. So we'll go through mine. Some key highlights here in my bio, which was actually pretty much the bio that I had for this session today. I highlight different metrics, TikTok metrics, things that are highlights within your music career that you're proud of, top venues, top artists that you are supporting. Eventually, I will have new releases here as well. If you're into producing, have your top releases, have your top labels that you have released on. And then I have different social media links. I wouldn't go crazy with putting like every single set that you've done, but sets that you really want to highlight, maybe some visual sets. If you have any YouTube sets, it's definitely good to have a diverse amount of sets that you have linked. And then my contact information, my socials. I also included my tech writer in here as well, especially if you are looking at recording your sets or you want to, if you have specific preferences on your tech writer that maybe you really want to note to anybody and you want them to know up front, could be a good idea. I like that I have my tech writer in there, but there are definitely different ways to do this, different ways to fill up the space. And this is where I want to kind of just break and start the conversation. I want to know from you guys what you like about this, what you don't like about it. If there's anyone out there that has an EPK that looks vastly different from mine, if we think the tech writer, for example, is a good idea or not a good idea, but I kind of want to start a conversation around EPKs because, again, this is really the foundation of your brand, and it's the first thing a lot of the time that you're going to that any event company, promoter, anybody is going to come across when they're looking at you as an artist. So again, safe space. I don't want anybody to, if you're not comfortable sharing, you don't have to.
This sounds so dumb, but I like that you had the pictures of the tech that you're requesting.
Yeah.
As a promoter, when we get those, maybe I shouldn't, but I always forget, which one is this again? Which one is that? Like, there's so many different ones. So just to be able to be like, oh, yeah, the venue has that. Cool.
So we like the tech writer.
Tech writer.
Cool. Okay. Yes, Shanice.
So two things. I have an EPK and I have a website actually. So I link it as my artist page and I update it as it goes. I put videos and things like that, like little clips of videos. So that's helpful. But I'm gonna ask a question for the newbies in the room. What happens, so you and I have artist support, right? But what happens if you don't play a lot of gigs? What kinds of things do you think you should write in an EPK if you haven't had a lot of gigs?
That's such a good one.
Showcase your artistry to them.
Yeah, that is a really good question. Yeah, I think it would be smart to even fill it out with your aspirations, potentially. Like, where are you looking to go? What sound are you developing? What are you working on behind the scenes? Yeah, I don't really...
Recorded sets.
Yeah, I think that's a big one, recorded sets.
I did a mix series for like a year before my actual first gig, which was definitely helpful.
Nice.
I had 20,000 streams over the last year or something like that.
Yeah, another thing also, to your point, I think metrics, and it's funny because I know this from developing my resume in the corporate world, but everyone likes to see metrics, right? Because those are hard statistics that you cannot argue. So here, right, I'm saying something about 20,000 viewers per live, right? So that's putting a numeric value on, like the audience that I generate, that I'm able to bring in. So I think stats, when you get to that point, if you're doing something in the digital space, that can be very, very helpful as well. But yeah, Shanice, it's a really great point. I think, any sets probably is a really good place to start. Anything else? Does anybody have? Yeah, go for it.
So I like it. I like your EPK. The one thing that I don't like is it's either the font or that it's all in caps right under your name. Like
yeah, that's fair.
The captions, like your name and where it says DJ producer and technical writer and all the stuff at the bottom looks fine, but that big block of like uppercase text, it's either the font or it's uppercase. It's something.
So my bio or?
Yeah, the bio part.
Gotcha.
So, play around with that, see if you.
Like it looks too aggressive, maybe?
I don't know.
Okay.
I like the design.
Thank you, yeah.
I like all of it other than that. That just.
Yeah, no, we can tear this apart, honestly. So I'm happy to receive criticism. Honestly, I was thinking like, oh, do I reach out to people to have them submit their EPKs before? But just tech-wise, I was like, okay, I don't know how to get that up. But yeah, I figured this is just good for you guys to get an idea of what it could be, what it could look like. And it also could look vastly different than this. Yeah.
This for me is one piece of the puzzle of the electronic press kit. Like this is like what I would consider the one pager, is what you just want to send and say like, this is who I am, this is what I've done, here's some cool pictures of me. Technical writer is, I personally don't do that.
Yeah.
But what I do is I have a Google Drive that I consider my EPK, which is essentially just a shared drive. I'll have my one pager, I'll have my rider right next to it, and then I'll have a folder for my pictures of me playing out. I'll have videos of me playing out. So if they're gonna make a reel or something for that event, they can just go in, they'll see my top videos, like, all right, this one's cool, let's use this. We're gonna make a flyer, here's a picture, I'm gonna take this. What do they need to play? Because in most cases, a lot of people are gonna be using the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like in probably 95%.
Yeah.
So when you do need to fill the space out, you're probably gonna like want it, is all I'll say. But I mean,
No, yeah.
great.
Yeah, no, but I like how you're kind of getting ahead of it where you're putting everything in one so that when you do get booked, the booker doesn't have to ask for, okay, like where are your promo shots, where's this, where's that, everything's right in the drive. So that's actually a really good piece of advice. Well, sorry, we'll go with you.
I just had a question. So where do you like have this available for anyone to go and access, or do you just send this out when you're looking to get booked somewhere?
Great question. So I actually have this in my email signature, and then for a while I had this in my link tree, which is, I think everybody knows what Linktree is. So those are the two places that I have it, so that if I'm emailing with somebody that's booking me, it's in my signature, so it already pops up as an attachment. So that's my kind of tried and true method, but I don't know if anybody else has any other place where they're putting their EPK. But yeah. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
So I really like how the picture on the bottom blends into like the description. I feel like that looks really cool. What I would ask is, so somebody that's starting off, so they shouldn't worry about not having like any gigs under their belt before they decide to make an EPK?
Yes, I would say don't worry about it. I think this screams professionalism, and it kind of attributes to you and where you want to go as an artist. And I think, right, even when we were, graduating school or just applying for a job in general, right, even if we don't have any work experience, we're still submitting some kind of resume. So I think the same method holds true here, where you're filling it with other things, your other skill sets, the things that you've been working on to say, hey, this is why I should be getting booked. So I wouldn't wait. I think it would probably be a great, if you guys don't have EPKs, I think it's another kind of call to action to sit down with a template in Canva or even Word if you're feeling like, you're better at graphic design than Canva, and actually just sitting with this and saying, okay, here's my bio, here's this, here's that, here's, a set or two, but here's where I want to go. And I think actually being able to convey that and write that down in words is going to probably even help you as an artist. Yeah, go ahead.
So this is my first time actually looking at EPK. Obviously, I don't have one. Are they always like one page, or is there like long form and short form? And like, do you have different ones for different purposes? Like, I think he kind of hinted that you do, but I'm not sure. So.
No, so this is my EPK for everything. I think traditionally it should be one page. My friends in the room can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you want it condensed so that it's an easy to read document for anyone that's trying to book you. Kind of the same if you're applying to a job. You don't want to be giving a recruiter like a 2-page resume, right? Like you want it to be very, very easy, condensed, so that they're just looking at it all in one. If anybody has another opinion on that, they can let me know. But
I could I have a 1-page and I have a website too. So if you want to see a little bit more about what I've done in videos and stuff like that, you can go to my website, but I have a 1-sheeter because that's really what bookers want to see and promoters want to see. They want to see like a 1-sheet something.
yeah. Any other questions, comments before we move on? All right, I hope this was helpful. So number 4, platform diversity. There are a lot of controversial opinions on this. There are a lot of people that say you should do, you should work on one and be the best that you possibly can at promoting and growing one account on one social media platform. I personally disagree. I think, I've developed a strategy where you're able to grow your platform simultaneously, and you're actually giving yourself more of an opportunity to grow your fan base and grow your, really your fan base, right? So screenshots here, you have my Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. These are probably my my platforms where I have the most engagement. For the people that say, okay, but, wouldn't you rather just kind of work on one and grow that, instead of just having maybe 3 or 4 platforms where you're trying to grow, but maybe not getting the exponential growth that you could be getting on one. The reason why I disagree, and here's my strategy, and this is what I do with my videos. So you can actually go into an editor such as CapCut, right? And you can work on your content, you can work on your editing. An editor like CapCut, or I'm sure there are other editors out there, they give you the opportunity to edit that one video without any watermarks attached, without the quality getting affected, none of that. So what I like to do is make that video and then just post it across the board. Right now, YouTube is really emphasizing their YouTube Shorts, which is their version of short form videos, trying to compete with TikTok and Instagram right now. So I'll take, a certain amount of time actually editing my video, and then once I have it and I export it, all you have to do is copy and paste the caption and put the video in literally each platform, and that will take me less than 5 minutes. And then all of a sudden you have that video across all of your platforms, and then you're able to actually add those numbers together, and you're understanding, okay, what's your total view count across the board. So that's my strategy, and I am so for platform diversity. I also think, if you really do want to just focus on one platform, that's fine, but eventually there's going to be another platform, and it's, even if your follower count isn't necessarily up on one, it's still good to have it so that you're reachable, you're accessible on more platforms. So that's my opinion on it. I would love to open it up to you guys. Do any of you agree with that, or even really strongly disagree with that? Does anybody have any tried and true methods that work for them with, growing social media? Because I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest short form person. I actually don't really like creating the short form videos. So this is kind of my hack to really conserve time and time manage, and to just make sure that, all of those accounts are consistently growing together. And then I can kind of even just talk about the algorithms a little bit and the differentiation there. But before I get into that, does anybody have any comments, questions, any methods that have worked for them? Yeah, Frank.
I was curious, you have obviously different feeds for the three. Is there different strategies or different engagements?
Yeah. So yeah, my strategy for each is kind of what I said, where I am kind of taking that, I guess, condensed route and taking that video and just kind of putting it across, right? So Reels, short form, and then YouTube Shorts. There are different methods for both based off of the algorithms. So something that I learned when I started getting into TikTok is the algorithm for TikTok really emphasizes quantity over quality. So the more that you post, the more likely one of those videos is going to just blow up. Whereas Instagram, if you're posting a reel, you want that reel to be quality. It does not matter how much you post or how often you post. You want that video to be shot well. You want it to have a good aesthetic, a good background. You want the bio to be very clear. You want your hashtags to be clear. I mean, you want your hashtags to be clear on everything, but so that's what's going to get you the growth on Instagram. If you start posting short form on TikTok, the majority of experts actually recommend, if you want to see exponential growth, posting 3 times a day short form videos on TikTok, which I'm giving the advice, but I don't do it. It's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of effort. But you kind of want to be in between 1 to 3 times a day if you want to see that growth on TikTok specifically. My thing that I love on TikTok is the TikTok lives. And that's where I've really been able to take my platform to the next level and really grow it. And that's something that I'm very passionate about. So those are kind of the difference in between the algorithms. And then YouTube is kind of the same way. It's quality over quantity. You want to use YouTube to record those really beautiful sets with a beautiful aesthetic. You want to record them in 4K. You can get creative with it, but it's going to be quality over quantity. I actually tested it on YouTube, posted a really, really beautiful set, 4K. It was daytime. My face was very clear. It was very clear what I was doing on the board. And then probably 2 weeks later, I posted one of my sets from Main Room of Superior Ingredients, and everybody knows that's been in there. It is so dark, especially the DJ decks. They don't light it very, very much. Posted that, got less than 1,000 views, and then that original video that I posted on YouTube got almost 10,000 views. So there's a key difference there, quality over quantity, except on TikTok. I don't know if any of you agree or disagree, but again, this is based off of a little bit of research, but mainly my experience with these platforms. Any comments, questions? Yeah.
Have you had any issues in terms of copyright, with music that's not yours? And how do you handle that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So all of these platforms have been working on handling copyright, right? Because there's so many artists and DJs that don't actually own the music that they're playing. So YouTube will actually, when you're uploading your sets or your short form videos, in tandem with the upload, they will actually have, I guess they have it built in automatically, but they will actually scan your set and they will call out the copyrighted songs. And then they'll say, okay, these are all okay to play in the US. Sometimes you'll get certain videos that could be banned in other random countries because for some reason the artist is not allowing it in a specific country. But normally I've actually been okay. TikTok has actually implemented something very similar. But I think these social media platforms are kind of catching on to copyright, and they're starting to they're trying to incorporate methods to support, I think, DJs and artists that are posting these sets. So they're kind of almost like doing the work for you, essentially. Yeah, go ahead.
So how do you, for example, for TikTok, you said it's quantity over quality, right?
Yeah.
So how do you diversify it so it's not like a bunch of videos of probably me in the same spot mixing? Like, do you like put like when you go to events and stuff, like how can you diversify?
Yeah. Yeah. So the advice that I have with TikTok, it's very casual app and very raw in the sense that you get a lot of people that they're just kind of almost vlogging through life, essentially. That's not really my thing. But granted, right, 3 times a day, that's a lot of content. You have to put out so much content to get to the point where you're posting 3 times a day. So I would say here, and we're going to kind of get into it at other sides, but it's important to kind of carve out different times that you want to dedicate to content. So if you want to take an hour on this day to actually dedicate to you DJing, then that's fine. And then maybe another day you're promoting a show. I think the strategies are they could be very different there. Yeah, it's a little bit of a tough question to answer because it's really like about the time that you put in, I think, at the end of the day. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you monetize off your videos on YouTube?
Not yet. I actually don't know anything about monetization on YouTube particularly, but I know it's an option when you hit a certain point. I think you have to get to a certain amount of subscribers, having a certain amount of engagement. I do monetize off of TikTok, and we can jump into that in the Q&A. I actually want to move this along a bit, if you guys don't mind. So number 5, build community. So when I started going off of TikTok lives, I realized that in my comments, there's actually a lot of people that are engaging and they want to see more of me and they want to figure out a way to kind of, talk to me and get in front of me more. And so this kind of sparked the idea to start a Discord. And TikTok, you guys will see if you're on TikTok, Discord and TikTok are very heavily linked. So I started going on my live, started seeing kind of this community of people that would start talking in my chat. And I was like, okay, how can we get everybody together? So Discord is a great way to do that. If you have any type of following on any account, I would say bring those people together, right? The people that are in your comments, or even if they're not, take even some friends, throw them in a Discord and start having a conversation. So my Discord is called TED Talk. I just started a broadcast channel as well yesterday, named it TED Talk, so you could brand it in a really cool way that's kind of enticing for different fans, different followers. In my Discord, and if any of you are familiar with Discord, the sky is the limit with the amount of kind of threads that you can create. You can throw in kind of like an event thread. You could throw in a random topic. Like there's so many ways to engage with your audience on Discord. So would highly recommend looking into that. And I think the simplest form of what we can all do is as artists, and this is something that, I just started, but creating a broadcast channel and actually getting that tighter knit community in Instagram and having that place to not only connect with your audience, but then also send them different announcements. And I also put a bullet here, create a sense of exclusivity. So you want to create inclusivity and exclusivity. Inclusivity being you want everybody to feel included, you want everybody to have the opportunity to join, but exclusivity as in you want the people that are actually in the community to feel like they're a part of something that is exclusive to you. So that's also really important. I think the big differences with these is the broadcast channel, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but the broadcast channel, it's really for you guys to give your announcements and give different like shows, updates on music and anything that you have updates on. Discord is really a place for you to engage and talk and meet your fans and yeah, to really like have a conversation and engage with them. So these are kind of the two ways that I'm building my community right now that have kind of worked for me. Yeah, are there any other kind of in a social media world ways that anybody else has built their community other than Discord or a broadcast channel? Yeah, in the back.
Well, I see a lot of like after shows and everything, you really should, go out and actually talk to the people who are like at your shows and events, and it seems so obvious, but it's like obviously a great way for people to know who you are on a personal level as well.
100% cannot agree more. Yeah, I'm definitely saying build community, right? This whole thing is about like the digital world, but absolutely in person, yes, go up, talk to people, engage after your set. Completely agree.
Something I like to do is for example, I'll do like a mix and then a mixtape for your crush, and I'll ask people like, I'll do a question series to promote the mix, and I'll say, tell me about your worst first date, and then I share them. So I find that's a great way to engage with people as well. So ask questions using that question format.
Oh yeah, on the stories and stuff.
Yeah, people really like to share some stuff. If you like, when I asked about your the worst first date, everyone had a lot to say. So if you get creative in that way, that's helpful.
I love that. Yeah, definitely very engaging. Very, very engaging. Anybody else? Yeah.
Something that works for the community I work with, Somos. I don't know if anyone's familiar with us. We run a lot of events, and WhatsApp is very good for us because there's a lot of DJs and a lot of people that are also international. Because I know mainly in the US people text like their general message, but a lot of people use WhatsApp also. So
yeah,
like WhatsApp is definitely like somewhere where we have built our group through a lot. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like WhatsApp, right, because there's like phone numbers involved, I feel like that probably would be the most exclusive form of your community. But yeah, definitely a way to build community. Definitely. Anyone else? All the way in the back.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what your take is on Twitter or X. I know it's pretty big in the music space, and you didn't touch on that, so I'm just curious.
You're so right. I didn't because I want to educate based off of experience, and I actually don't have a lot of experience with Twitter. But absolutely, if you decide you want that to be one of your platforms, honestly, I should take my own advice and make a Twitter. But yeah, if you want to utilize Twitter, but I know Twitter is more based off of language, verbiage, right? It's not. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So I would say definitely if you're looking to make that one of your big diverse platforms, definitely go for it. In terms of engagement and growth, I would imagine that posting consistently and making different tweets is probably the best way to get engagement. But yeah, I definitely like no issues there. Like if you want that to be one of your platforms, absolutely. I feel like 3 is a really good number to have. The more, the better. But yeah, and I'm also kind of speaking off of like video creation as well, which I don't know if that's super prominent on Twitter. But yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I kind of think about like time management with a lot of my engagement and whatnot. So I'm curious, like for you, how often do you do this? And like, can you do some stuff that's like across all 3? Timing posts as well, like stuff like that to help manage your time?
Yeah, we're going to get into it. I think that's my next slide. Anyone else before we move on? Yeah?
One thing I've seen that helps with generating a community or a sense of community is having a narrative with the things that you post. Like, they're called Instagram stories. And the way I look at it is that people like to follow a story, something that has a narrative. So if there's progression throughout the things that you post, also if you have recurring themes as well, people latch onto that almost like they're part of like an inside joke. So then they
I love that.
Part of something more. They're part of something more special, and I found people really latch onto that.
That's amazing. I love that. Yep. Very, very cool. I actually don't have any. I can't think of an experience that I have with that, but I feel like that's something I could definitely run with in the future. I feel like I've seen you do it a little bit here and
Yeah,
there.
it's definitely one of the things that I like to do. There's plenty of things in social media that I don't do that I could be better at, but that one.
Yeah, no, for sure. Especially I think like just calling out like your D&B set, right? I feel like there are certain notes from like notable moments of your set that you kind of leveraged and used social media to highlight.
Hand gestures I don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
From that you said, you performed for Azur multiple times. Azur usually they have a slogan of "See you on the roof" for their summer series. So
Yeah.
they got something like a slogan, stuff like that.
Definitely, yeah. I feel like it goes back to kind of that sense of like feeling exclusive, like you're like in the know about something. Yeah, definitely agree. So creating versus consuming, I feel like these are two big buzzwords that are used separately and together. I have been caught being this woman in bed multiple times where I am consuming until I go to bed and it becomes maybe not the healthiest. Of course, there are healthy versions of consuming where you're engaging with other people and different DJs. And there's definitely something to be said about, consuming in the right way. This is where, Frankie, to answer your question, like time management really comes into play. Making a schedule can be so beneficial to actually just tapping into you being a creator. I know for me, one of my resolutions for 2024 was to actually map out and put time aside for certain things. So for example, one of my goals is to, release a song to get to be a better producer. So I'm carving out that time every day and setting it on my schedule, an hour a day, going into Ableton, producing, and then you're going to basically do the same thing here, right? You're going to carve out, let's say you get home 5 p.m., from 6 to 7 p.m., that is your time to sit down and make content. So time management is massive. It's way easier said than done, but definitely something that I would recommend trying, actually taking a calendar and carving out that time to create, and then also even to post, right? It's all kind of put in that creator bucket. So time management is huge. Having a posting strategy, strategizing based on what works best for the algorithm in place. So kind of what I spoke to a few slides ago, where there are different algorithms in place for different social media platforms. Different tactics can work for whichever platform you're deciding to post on. Let's say you're focusing on TikTok for, this particular day, and you decide to just make content for TikTok and you're recording for like your next 3 posts. You're carving out that hour of time to do so. That's fine. And then having that, differentiation and strategy for Instagram can also work too. And again, right, I'm just giving examples based off of my experience, but having a posting strategy and then managing your time is so important to make sure that you're more on the creator side than the consumer side. And again, right, like I feel like maybe I'm the only one, I don't know if I'm the only one in the room, I doubt I am, but that, sometimes that we get carried away with consuming, right? And we need to make sure that there's a nice balance of putting time into creating versus consuming. Yeah. So this is probably one of the more significant ones, mental health and social media. Again, wanting to mention this because I feel like in our industry, we do not talk about mental health enough, especially pertaining to social media. I have personally been affected mentally, like mental health-wise, by social media in the past. And I think it kind of attributes to why I've, built all of these steps to learn how to navigate it, especially like the creator versus consume part. Yeah, and I think this really became big for me when I started getting into TikTok Live. I'll just tell a quick story, but right, like if you give anybody a phone, right, it's so easy for people to hide behind a phone when you are commenting, when you're engaging. And so when I started on my TikTok lives, before I kind of knew how to set different parameters, you know, the first month I would say I was getting really, really positive engagement. And then there were some people that popped on my lives that were straight up trolls, and they would comment really mean things, right? They comment on me being a fake DJ. They comment about me being female, or, you know, something about just like me as a person. And I thought I had a thick skin. Now I know with social media, I do not have a thick skin at all, because I'll look back at my recordings and I'll actually like see the way that a comment affected me. And yeah, it's not cool sometimes. And I just kind of wanted to open up, I wanted to address it. I wanted to open up the conversation that sometimes in the social media realm, we're going to run into instances where we are negatively affected, whether it is consuming or whether it's creating, whether you have people that are freaking trolling and they're commenting negative things on you, or like about you or your brand. You know, it definitely is just, I think, a topic that we don't talk about enough, we don't address enough. I don't know if there are other people in the room that feel like there is a correlation between the two. I guess I would actually love to ask, raise your hand if you or your brand have been kind of affected negatively by social media in the past. Okay, cool. And if you haven't and you're doing well, I'm so happy for you. That's great, right? But for the people that do have these kinds of experiences, just wanted to put this on here to say that you're not alone, and that, you know, if you at any point do need a break from social media, that's, you know, it's totally fine. A lot of us don't have agents, a lot of us don't have managers. And yeah, it's just important to check in with yourself and understand how social media is affecting you. Yeah, go ahead.
I love that you brought this up. I think this is like something I don't even think about. It's just like second nature.
Yeah.
A really helpful tip, especially if you're on TikTok Live, is you can set keywords to block so like people can't comment certain things.
Yep, I've learned that.
Yeah.
I've learned that.
You can like appoint a moderator. So if you have like a friend or a family member who's usually on your lives, they can like block certain people for you while you're live, or like kick them out and do all that stuff too.
Yeah, so I have some interesting experiences with mods, and I can talk to you afterwards about that. But yeah, absolutely. And now I've kind of, after that point of starting on the lives, figured all of that out, right? There's still going to be some people that kind of figure out a way to kind of cut through that. But yeah, just kind of sharing like my personal experience with it. And then even on the consuming side, right? If you are getting posts where they're making you feel shitty about yourself, like it's okay to mute it, you know, it's okay to take a break. So, yeah. And then of course, right, there's of course parts of social media that make you feel positively as well, right? Like not saying that's not a thing. But wanted to call this out because, yeah, and share my experiences about it because, yeah, I want people to feel like they're not alone in this, and it's okay to take a break sometimes. But that's what I'll say about that. Any other comments or anything on this?
I think,
Yeah.
you know, to also share a personal story of it is, especially when you start DJing, everyone you follow are DJs. And then you tend to get lost in the sauce of being like, well, why am I not getting booked and all of those things? And like you said, it's okay to mute people. Doesn't mean you don't support them. Doesn't mean that. It's just like you have to protect your energy in those things. So if you're finding that you're like comparing yourself, like close your phone. It's not. It's natural.
It's normal.
It means it's something that you want, but you have to like reel it in and like protect yourself in that way. And I feel like I would be lying to say that I never experienced that, and so.
Oh, 100%. And I think it goes back to following the 10 new accounts, right, that inspire you. You don't want to feel, nobody likes feeling those emotions of jealousy or envy, right? You want to feel positively influenced and motivated to, you know, if you're not there, to get there, right? So, yeah, just taking little steps. And sometimes if it gets too much, I'll like shut off my, I'll take a social media hiatus. I did back in December. Sometimes you just need a break. So yeah, appreciate the comment. Anything else? I thought I saw a hand in the back, but yeah.
It was funny. We were just talking about that last week here, actually. Because
oh, really?
I think music too. Like when you really get deep into this, right? There's no level that you strive for in terms of there's not an NBA of the music or an NFL of the music, right? Like you have to be in the league to be in the league. So it is this zero-sum game where I think everybody can enjoy it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I feel like sometimes social media you just find yourself comparing against other people because their pictures are better and their content and their videos. And you're like, oh dang, how do I put out stuff like that?
Yeah.
And I think you're addressing it very well.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like there's always going to be someone bigger and better than you, right? But I think it's important to have the mindset of, or to just kind of develop the mindset of feeling motivation and not necessarily jealousy. And it's like it's a lot of mental work, right? And sometimes, again, right? Sometimes it's just too much and we need to shut it off and take a break. So just have to address that. Yeah.
Speaking of taking a break, has anyone ever really thought about like making extra content that you could just like put off to the side so that when you take a week or a couple week break, you at least could put something out one a day?
Yeah, I feel like I didn't talk about it. I was going to kind of mention it more on one of my slides, but scheduling is also something that you can look into that pretty much across all of the social platforms, they have scheduling options. Yeah, and that's something that, we can get into probably at another time. I actually don't know too much about scheduling, but yeah, it's definitely an option if you do want to take a week or 2 weeks and record all of your content and develop all of your posts and kind of set that schedule. Of course, that's a lot of time to do that, right? But people definitely do it. Yeah. Cool. So on a lighter note, does anybody want to guess what my most asked question on my TikTok lives are?
No, it's gotta be ID. ID.
No. Yeah. Well, yeah, I feel like ID is one of them. My ID, and then probably people ask me a lot like what kind of board I have. But the one that is the most related to this presentation is how the heck do I set up my live stream? So for those of you that are interested, we're gonna quickly go through how the heck somebody sets up a live stream and is able to, perform in a digital space. So I have a picture here of my live stream setup. There's not too much to it. Truly, it's really not that difficult. Obviously, you need a board and all of that, basic stuff that a DJ has. What I would recommend is getting an iRig or similar. And if you don't know what an iRig is, you can look it up. It'll pop up very, very easily. They're all over Amazon. I have something that is basically like very, very similar to an iRig. It's called an EverMix box. I'm not going to recommend it because the company went out of business. So you cannot get an EverMix box. But I actually did buy an iRig last year so that when my EverMix box does fritz out, I have the backup because I know that I can't really troubleshoot it. But if you get the iRig, it should come with some form of an RCA cable. If you don't have one, I would even say like on top of the iRig, it's always just good to have an RCA cable handy. You could just use it for other things that are just involved in a normal DJ setup. So I have my RCA cables. I will normally plug it into the master output and then plug that into my EverMix box. That will feed into that iRig or similar. And then you'll see on my EverMix box, it already has the right plugin for my phone. But a lot of the time, you'll get something that has an audio jack. So then all you need is the adapter to your iPhone. So those little like Apple dongles that you could buy, that's what you would plug into the audio jack. And then it just hooks up right to your phone. You'll see I have my mic there as well, and that just plugs into mic 1. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions? Has anybody tried anything like this before? I just wanted to, I feel like this is a very common question on TikTok lives, but wanted to, yeah, open it up. Yeah.
You have to use your phone. That's the only way to do it.
No, actually, not necessarily. Like if you wanted to, like I know a lot of people that do what I do, they live stream on Twitch, right? So you could end up buying an adapter that goes, like a USB adapter that you can plug into a laptop. Let's say you're live streaming on Twitch. Let's say you're deciding to record with a camera, right? Everything's gonna be different. Every setup's gonna be different. You just have to find the adapter that works with the recording device. So depending on if it's a camera, if it's a laptop, an iPhone, you're just gonna want to kind of look up, okay, what adapter is gonna work and like actually feed from that box to that device.
To add,
yeah.
For Twitch, you have to use OBS, and you can get like, have you used OBS?
No, so I don't stream on
OBS.
Twitch,
I used
but
to do a lot of Twitch streams during the pandemic. Can definitely talk to you more about that if you want to know more. But you can do a lot of like graphics and all that stuff. So you need like a software in between.
Gotcha.
Twitch and the laptop.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions? Cool. And then my last slide, arguably the most important thing is to be authentic in your content. Be genuine, be yourself. Don't try to fake anything. There are, I feel like, a lot of TikTokers out there, a lot of influencers out there that they're trying to push out this content that may not be what they're passionate about. And I feel like it is so easy these days for an audience to read right through you. So you want to make sure that you're passionate about the content that you're actually putting out there, that you're talking about things that are interesting, that is interesting to you and that you care about. Because at the end of the day, that's why people are going to follow you. That's why people are going to like you. That's why you're going to attract people. It's for your authentic self, what you're putting out. So it will go a long way in your social media content. I know it's a little cheesy, but it is so damn true. So make sure to be passionate about what you're putting out. There were a few times where I've tried different forms of content, like get ready with me type stuff, and it just wasn't hitting for me. And I'm a type of person, like, if I'm not vibing with something, I'm not gonna fake it, right? I know that my tried and true thing that I'm passionate about is going TikTok live. It's the live sets. That works for me. That's where my engagement is. That's where my growth is. And that's what I'm running with. So I would say find the thing that works for you and do it well and love what you do, right? You need to be passionate about what you're putting out. So with that, thank you everybody for coming. And we'll open it up to a Q&A for a little bit. I don't know if people want me to go back to a certain slide for anything, but is there any topics that I didn't cover? I know these were kind of very general, and there's so much content that we could get into in terms of social media and branding. So is there anybody that came here today that wanted to talk about something maybe that I didn't cover in the slides? Yeah.
What are some things you do for like content ideas and like coming up like what you're gonna post for each platform?
That's a good one. So like I said, right, I am big with the lives. And so what I normally do is I will kind of screen grab different parts of my lives that I found, where I found I was talking about something interesting or passionate, and those are my videos that I will put. Some people do the kind of like get ready with me stuff. Some people kind of go the vlogging route and just talk about like what a day in the life looks like for them. So I think it depends, right? It goes back to getting out that piece of paper, writing your goals, writing what your brand looks like and how you want to convey that to the rest of the world. And then I feel like through that, some natural ideas will develop. And then you could also, back to the following 10 people thing, like you can look at those people and what they're doing and what's kind of popping off for them. And maybe even there's no shade. I would never say that it's like stealing an idea, right? I think it's inspiration in its rawest form. If you want to take an idea that somebody else has done and you like it, absolutely run with it and try it, and maybe you put a different spin on it. So there are a lot of ways to go about it, but I think, kind of figure out what you like to do and look at other people and see what works for them. Anyone else? Yeah.
So back in 2021, when you first started DJing legit gigs around the city, and you decided to go by Erica Ted as your artist name, was it a purposeful decision to use your real name, or at least close to your own real name, as opposed to not a different, just like, Skrillex or Excision or whatever?
Yeah, I actually have a story about that. So there was an event company, the first event company that I got booked with, shout out Project 91. There were the two founders of the company. They booked me and they're like, okay, let's kind of develop, flyers, and let's develop your brand. Like what should we say? How should we promo this? And they were like, what's your DJ name? And my Instagram handle has always been Erica Ted. It's something that has been around with me since high school, since whenever Instagram started. I always just kind of shortened my last name. For those of you that don't know, my last name is Tadone. So that was something that was just, it's something that I've had with me for a really long time. And one of the founders, after I said, you're gonna put Erica Ted on the flyer, one of the founders said, that sucks, change your name. And so for a while, I went back to the drawing board. I went back to the drawing board and I was like, all right, let's brainstorm. If Erica Ted really sucks, then like we gotta figure this out. And so I remember being in my apartment with a few friends, and we're just going through notes, just kind of thinking of different ideas. Nothing was hitting with me. Nothing meant something to me. Nothing resonated with me. And I was like none of these names actually like holds any meaning to me. And that bothered me. And so I ended up a few days later saying, we're going with Erica Ted, deal with it. And it's a name that I think is true to my brand, right? It's something that has been with me. It's meaningful. Obviously, it's like half of my name. It's meaningful to me. It's been with me for a while. So that's kind of the story there. I don't know if I answered your question, Aaron. I kind of... Oh, Johnny. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Sorry. I don't know if I answered your question. Okay, cool. Yeah. But it kind of alludes to just like staying true to what's meaningful to you. Yeah.
When you started going live on TikTok, did you find a certain schedule worked for like consistency, and did it pick up after you did that?
Yes. So I will admit, and this kind of lends itself to my social media hiatus, December, January, whatever. When I first started getting into TikTok lives, I got picked up by a TikTok agency, and I followed a lot of their recommendations when I was going live. So they helped me kind of adjust my background, adjusted my audio. They gave me a lot of tips and tricks. So if you're in that space and you're going live consistently, chances are you're going to get picked up by a TikTok agency. And these agencies are, TikTok's actually investing money into these agencies to help the TikTok live content be the best that it possibly can. So they're actually investing in their creators, which is really, really cool. So my agency gave me all of these tips and tricks. They said 3 times a week going live is where you're going to see the most optimal growth. If you do any more than that, that's great, but a minimum of 3 times a week for an hour is where you're going to really start to see the growth. And that's truly where I started to see the growth. When I started going on consistently, that's where I found that I had regulars that knew my schedule. The community started developing in the chats. And that's where I started really racking in on the followers and the engagements and the gifts, like all of it. So 3 times a week. I never ended up going on an hour a week though. So it became a time management issue for me because my sets would always turn into like sometimes these 3 to 4 hour sets 3 times a week. That's absolutely insane. That's like a full-time job. And I would always get very influenced by the comments that they're like, one more song, right? It's just like, okay, I'll go for another hour, whatever. And I feel like when you love what you do, it's so easy to do that. I know all of the DJs in this room, like if they're given the opportunity to go an hour, they're gonna go an extra hour. But yeah, it's that 3 times a week for at least an hour. That is the tried and true method for optimal engagement and growth. Yeah, go ahead.
Are you part of the creator program that's in beta on TikTok?
No, but I've been contacted about it, and I feel like I would be in it if I kept that exact schedule, but I'm kind of, right now time management is honestly a big thing for me, and I'm really trying to balance producing and TikTok. And for me, producing is priority, at least for this year. So I feel like it might not fit best with what I'm trying to do right now, but I'm aware of it, definitely been contacted about it, yeah.
So how do you monetize off TikTok if you're not in the program?
Gifts, donations, and you would be so surprised how much people will give you.
On like the subscribers, or is it more so like an external link where they could gift you, or like Venmo?
It's not even the subscribers, it's those gifts. Like I'm sure you're familiar with those, the roses and the stuff that pops up on your screen. So
Like the NPC thing.
That's kind of, that's excessive, and I'm not even gonna get into that, but yeah, there are different strategies actually, like you can talk to, like if you have a TikTok agency, there are different strategies that you can actually use to optimize the amount of gifts and donations that people give you. But if you're not on consistently, you're most likely not gonna get like a significant amount. It's the people that actually gift me, they're a part of my community, they're my regulars, they're my people that believe in me and want to see me grow, as opposed to the people that just pop in. So if you're going on consistently and you start to create that community, you add them to the Discord, you kind of show that level of engagement with them, they in turn are going to feel like, they want to donate XYZ to you. Yeah.
Do you set goals on your live for gifts?
You can, yeah.
Do you have like a strategy to that?
Not really.
Pick a random one for each live.
Yeah, I'll pick a random one. I try not to be too ambitious with it so that it's attainable. That's really the only strategy that I use. But sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't really matter. But it's, it's definitely just a tool in your tool belt to use. I would say always set one just because you can, right? And then if you're commenting on the live to say, hey, like, let's hit this amount of likes or let's hit this goal, that can a lot of the time motivate your viewers. But yeah, so I would just say, like, it's always safe to set one. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I'm aware that ideas like for sets and mixes flow freely when you're organized. So I know it's subjective, but do you have any tips in terms of organizing a music library that's all over the place?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of the people in this room can take that question. I'm a little bit weird with it. I like to, depending on my DJ pool or whatever music I'm downloading, I'll normally take those and then I have different crates and they're all separated out into different categories. So the ones that I have in my record box are events, YouTube for my YouTube sets, TikTok Live for all of my lives, genre, and then I think other, like random stuff. So a lot of the time, if I'm prepping, of course, for an event, naturally I'm gonna put the ones that I wanna play for an event in that specific crate. And then sometimes if I have tracks that I'm downloading and I'm like, I have no idea where I want this to go, I will make different crates to put them in so that nothing really gets lost in the sauce, right? Because sometimes if you have thousands of songs in your library and you don't have one in a crate, you know, a lot of the time you're not really going to access it. It's not even going to get to the USB. So I try to do a really good job at every time I'm downloading a set of tracks, trying to put them in at least one crate, even if you just have a crate that says random, right? But I try to kind of categorize them out by different genre a lot of the time. So that's the way that I organize mine. I don't know if anybody else has any other methods, recommendations, ways that they like to organize their record box or whatever software they use. Anyone?
Record box, and they actually have this feature of a smart playlist. So I break it out by genre and also events and like sets and stuff. But I found it was really helpful when you download music. I do it by genre, and each genre is a smart playlist, and then you can just tag each song, and it automatically populates it into the playlist.
That is
so
cool.
I feel like it's a good time saver.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super simple when you make a new playlist. It's either like new playlist option or new smart playlist, and you can even do like BPM criteria or energy. It could be like any sort of criteria.
That is actually pretty cool. Yeah, I think Spotify actually has something similar, like smart shuffle or smart. I think you can like make playlists off of Spotify that way too. That is very cool. Yeah.
I have 2 questions. So when you're first starting out in content, how much do you think you're defining your brand image or like aesthetic matters? I guess you can answer that first.
Yeah. I think aesthetic can be very catchy, but I think the content itself is going to speak volumes. I've found, honestly, like my grid, for example, on Instagram over the years has, you know, it's sometimes it looks a little bit all over the place and messy, but sometimes if I'm doing event promo or there's a particular flyer that somebody decided to create for an event, and it's like one color that maybe doesn't match another color, right? There's some things that I would say, you know, you got to do it anyways, and it doesn't matter. And then there are some people that are really careful about their aesthetic and will only post XYZ. So I think either strategy is fine based off of what you're doing. But I think the content at the end of the day, the actual substantial, like whatever is actually in your post is going to matter the most.
And the second one was, if you have super limited time when you're starting out, what would you focus on? The answer is probably going to be the content, but.
Yeah. Well, I think it depends on what your goals are, right? So again, right, like one of my goals is producing this year. It actually isn't really, you know, and I think producing is a part of building my brand, right? It's a key part to building my brand. So even though social media has like been a big part of that building, I know that I need to put time into other parts of my brand to get it collectively to where I want it to be. So I think it definitely, you should base it off of your goals, but if your goal is to grow your social media, I personally would recommend create all of the accounts like after this presentation and then work on your content from there. And yeah, I would try to, honestly, I would recommend my method where you're creating that short form video content of something that you want to try and you're posting it across all platforms. And I think that's the best way, the most efficient way, at least for me, that I have been able to time manage and actually post content across all platforms. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks.
Cool. Yeah.
How do you go about discovering new music, and do you recommend any certain record pools?
That's a really good one. Yeah, I've used a few. Actually, back in, like when I first started, I was totally ripping music and it was not good. So now the DJ pool that I use is called Soundio for the most part, and it's subscription based. I know there are other ones. Does anybody have any other DJ pools? I'm trying to think. Zip DJ, yes, that's the big one. I think I used actually Zip DJ for a little bit, but I think it's just based off of the music that you want to download. You could do like a lot of research and Googling, like based off of, let's say you are a techno DJ or you're like, I don't know, if you're into even like open format or like depending on the DJ that you are, I think there's a better off DJ pool depending on the genre. So I would probably recommend to do your research on that. But I also think Zip DJ is very like mass marketed and probably I feel like it's a really good starting off DJ pool for DJs that are maybe in between genres and are kind of exploring. Yeah.
You could also add music to a Beatport playlist, and then once a month it'll always go on sale, 30% off.
Ooh,
So,
I did not know that.
30%.
Sick. All right, guys. I think, unless anybody has any other questions, I think that's it. We'll wrap it up. Thanks.